Hey there, songwriters! Woo! I've decided not to trim up my scruff and to wear my most lumberjack-like flannel plaid shirt because in this video, we are talking about how to write and compose folk percussion. Blake Jackson, a faithful follower of the Songwriting Studio, shout out to Blake, asked if I could do a video explaining how to create folk percussive parts. So in this video, we're going to talk about two things. Number one, we're going to talk about the foundational or the essential elements of folk percussion. And number two, we're going to dive into a project and I'm going to give you a quick start guide for how to start using these elements in your next project. So let's get started! First, we're going to talk about the essential elements of folk percussion. These are elements that you commonly hear within folk music. Now, you won't hear every one of these elements in every song, and you'll hear different elements than the ones that I'm going to mention, but this is what I call the foundational four of folk percussion. Number one is the kick drum. In some folk songs, this is the only percussive element that's there. This really is a foundational piece of composing folk percussion. Number two is our snare drum replacement, and that is commonly a tambourine hit or even claps. You don't commonly hear a snare drum in most folk music, but you will hear these elements replacing those beats which a snare drum would normally hit. Number three is a shaker, or even a tambourine that's played with a rhythmic pattern. These often replace what a hi-hat would play on a normal drum kit. Water break. Number four is toms. Sometimes it's just a single floor tom, and other times it's rolling toms to add some juice to the percussive performance in the song. So there's the big four, but I will also mention that the strum pattern of the guitar or the picking pattern of the banjo or the rhythmic pattern of the piano can also act as a rhythmic piece within a song, so that they're not only playing a melodic chord, but they're also creating a rhythmic pattern in the way that they play it. So are there more elements than this that we hear in folk percussion? Well, yes, certainly, but in my mind, these are the big four. So now that we know the big four, let's jump into a project, and I want to give you a quick start guide for how to start using these elements in your next project. All right, we are starting from scratch with an empty project, and first we're going to create our kick drum. So we're going to select a software instrument or a MIDI instrument, and then we need to go over and select a drum kit, okay? So let's start with Brooklyn, bring up our typing keyboard, and I know that the kick drum always lives on the A button on my typing keyboard. Now, if you don't hear the kick drum, then you're probably in the wrong octave, so you can use the X and Z or just click to find where you're at, because if you're too low, no sound. Too high, wrong thing. So we want to find the kick drum. So I like the Brooklyn kick. I also like the heavy for a more punchy sound. This kind of punches you right in the face. Or even Motown Revisited for a different cool sound. They all have a unique sound. You can choose which one you like best or even blend some of them together. But for now, we're going to stick with the Brooklyn, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to hit record and we're going to create what's called a 4 on the floor beat. It's a very common beat within folk music, and you don't always have to use this beat, but it's a very common beat. So I'm going to hit R and let's get into it. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's all I need to do. Once I have those 4 beats, I'm going to double click on this region, get rid of my typing keyboard, and now I've got my 4 beats right here, but I want to make sure that they're in really nice timing. So I'm going to hit time quantize, come down here and click quarter notes. Now, as you can see, it's snapped every one of those beats into perfect timing. Now, if you don't want perfect timing, you can adjust the strength of the slider, but I'm going to keep it perfect for now. And now that we have those 4 beats, let's loop those out to 8 full bars. Okay, so now we've got this beat. Nice. So it's plain, but it's a good start. And now it's time for our second element, our snare replacement. So either a tambourine hit or claps or anything else. Let's add another MIDI track. And we're going to go again to drum kits, and I'll just pick the same one, but you can pick different drum kits for your kick or snare. You can find the best tambourine you like or the best clap you like. It really doesn't matter. You can make as many tracks as you want. So we're sticking with Brooklyn. Let's bring up the typing keyboard. So I know that the claps always live on the letter E on my typing keyboard, or what would be an E flat on an actual piano. So if you don't hear a clap coming up, you're again probably in the wrong octave. And you just need to adjust that until you find your clap. Then I also know that the tambourine hit is actually one octave up on the T button, or what would be an F sharp. So they live in different octaves, but they're pretty easy to find. All right, so I'm gonna go back down to where the clap lives, and now we're gonna record a part with an alternating clap and tambourine hit. But they don't live in the same octave, so we can't actually play them at the same time, which creates a small problem, but I'm glad that it's coming up because I'm gonna show you how to edit it and get it right here in a minute. So let's hit record on this puppy and get started. 2, 3, 4. Nice. All right, so let's double click on this and let's do our quantize again. You're getting a view into my editing process, my production process. So now when I hit play, I do have the clap, but every other one is actually a cymbal hit or a hi-hat snit. So what we're gonna do is highlight all of those and then drag them up to that F sharp. There, oh! Now let's hit play on it. Yes. All right, and now I want to show you a little trick before we add our next element. This one sounds a little dry or a little plain to me. So I'm going to go over to the Smart Controls window. This is going to be exciting. Hit the Plugins drop-down menu and just add some reverb, maybe about halfway up the slider. Let's try that again. So it's very subtle, but it just adds some warmth, just adds some dimension, some color to that performance, which I think is a very nice touch. So now, let's bring that back down, add our third element, another MIDI instrument, and here we're gonna add our toms. So let's go back to drum kit. I'll choose Brooklyn again. And now I'll pull up that typing keyboard, and I have learned that the toms live from L all the way down to F. So L, K, J, E. That's all of my toms. So what we're gonna do is hit record and create us a little tom part. All right, beautiful. All right, double click that again. Get rid of that. And I'm gonna start off with that good old quantize. 8th notes? Nope, that would be 16th notes. All right, and let's hit play on that. This is fun. Nice. All right, so I see at the beginning of this performance, these notes are not going to make it in. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. Back it up. And then I'll make this a even 4 bars, okay? So let's do the same thing. Let's go over here to our Smart Controls window. Let's add a little reverb to it. Give it a listen. Nice. Yes, that's awesome. All right, so let's add the 4th and final element here in this basic setup. So we're gonna go add a new track, and instead of a software instrument, we're actually gonna go to the session drummer because we're gonna create a shaker sound or a rhythmical tambourine, and it's just a lot easier to do that, I've found, using a session drummer who already has those things in place rather than me trying to create it from scratch using a software instrument. So let's click on that drummer. And I generally like to go for a percussion, okay? So a guy like Finn or Quincy or Isabella or whoever. So we'll just start with Finn for now. And since we already have a clap, I'm gonna take that out. We already have a kick, I'm gonna take that out. We already have a tambourine, I'm gonna take that out. And now it leaves us with just a shaker. Let's have a listen. Yeah! This is so fun. It's so easy to do. So if you don't like the meter in which he is playing that shaker, you can actually change up the way he's playing it. Let's click here and just listen. So you can switch it up. I'm going to stick with this one for now. And now we've got our 4 elements in place, and it's sounding pretty decent. So now let's make this a folk song. We're learning how to write and compose. beats in the key of folk. Hey! I didn't know we could make such cool beats using GarageBand and my keyboard that's neat.